What is up, everybody? Welcome to Midweek Multiplied. And today I want you to, before we dive in, I want you to be sure that you have the ability to start and stop this video pretty quickly, because I'm going to be guiding you really through an interactive conversation today. So just to recap where we're at in the story, so God has led the Israelites out of Egypt and freed them from slavery. And then they have gone to this mountain called Sinai, where God has made a covenant with these people. But then Dylan talked to us last week about how the Israelites have broken that covenant in their sin and rebellion. But then we've discussed these ways following that through Leviticus and through some of these laws in Exodus, that God has graciously given us a way for Him to be inside the camp with us, to be around us. Him, a holy God, be around us as sinful people. And so this book that we're going to be looking at today is the book of Numbers. I don't know if you've ever studied that before, but this book is really a continuation of this story. And so basically this book begins after they have finished this year-long stay at the foot of Mount Sinai. So this book picks up and it's after they finish this year-long stay and they're about to depart from Mount Sinai, going through the desert to this promised land that God is giving them. And so this book, if you're wondering why it's called Numbers, it's because this book has a census in it. And so quite literally the people are counted, or the people are numbered. And so bada boom, bada bing, that's where you get this name of Numbers coming for and naming this book. I want to make a point that starts in chapter 2 of Numbers. So I'm going to read chapter 2 of Numbers, and it may seem really long and boring and monotonous to you, but I want you to see the beauty, and I'm going to highlight some of the beauty. So go ahead and turn to Numbers chapter 2 in your Bibles. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "The Israelites are to camp around the tent of meeting, some distance from it, each man under his standard with the banners of his family. On the east, toward the sunrise, the divisions of the camp of Judah are to encamp under their standard. The leader of the people of Judah is Nahshon, son of Amminadab. His division numbers 74,600. The tribe of Issachar will camp next to them. The leader of the people of Issachar is Nathaniel, son of Zuar. His division numbers 54,400. The tribe of Zebulun will be next. The leader of the people of Zebulun is Eliab, son of Helon. His division numbers 57,400. All the men assigned to the camp of Judah according to their divisions number 186,400. They will set out first. On the south will be the divisions of the camp of Reuben under their standard. The leader of the people of Reuben is Eliezer, son of Shedeur. His division numbers 46,500. The tribe of Simeon will camp next to them. The leader of the people of Simeon is Shelemiel, son of Zereshaddai. His division numbers 59,300. The tribe of Gad will be next. The leader of the people of Gad is Eliasaph, son of Duel. His division numbers 45,650. All the men assigned to the camp of Reuben, according to their divisions, numbered 151,450. They will set out second. Then the tent of meeting and the camp of the Levites will set out in the middle of the camps. They will set out in the same order as they encamp, each in his own place under a standard. On the west will be the divisions of the camp of Ephraim under their standard. The leader of the people of Ephraim is Elishama, son of Ammihud. His division numbers 40,500. The tribe of Manasseh will be next to them. The leader of the people of Manasseh is Gamaliel, son of Pedazur. His division numbers 32,200. The tribe of Benjamin will be next. The leader of the people of Benjamin is Abidan, son of Gideoni. His division numbers 35,400. All the men assigned to the camp of Ephraim according to their divisions numbered 108,100. They will set out third. On the north will be the divisions of the camp of Dan. Under their standard, the leader of the people of Dan is Ahiezer, son of Ammishaddai. His division numbers 62,700. The tribe of Asher will camp next to them. The leader of the people of Asher is Pagiel, son of Ochran. His division numbers 41,500. The tribe of Naphtali will be next. The leader of the people of Naphtali is Ahira, son of Enan. His division numbers 53,400. All the men assigned to the camp of Dan numbered 157,600. They will set out last under their standards. These are the Israelites, counted according to their families. All those in the camps by their divisions numbered 603,550. The Levites, however, were not counted along with the other Israelites, as the Lord commanded Moses. So the Israelites did everything the Lord commanded Moses. That is the way they encamped under their standards, and that is the way that they set out, each with his own clan and family. So this book opens up with a census, and then it has this long chapter describing the way that the Israelites are encamped. And what I want you to know and what I want you to see in this text that seems so obscure and long, it's like, why are we detailing out all of these camps? That this text is making a beautiful, beautiful point. And that point is that this tabernacle, this holy tent, this holy portable tent where God dwells is at the center of this camp. So you have this holy tabernacle, and around it are the Levites and the priests, and then each of the tribes are surrounding this. It's this beautiful symbol that God is at the center of all these people, this 600,000 people. This whole nation is centered around God. This camp is centered around God. So what I want you to ask yourselves today is God at the center of my small group? Is God at the center of the Lions for Christ, or is it something else? Is what draws us to our small groups, is what draws us to our ministry, to this ministry, is it God? Is God at the center? And is He the focal point of what we do? Or is it something else? Is it friendship? Is it good conversation? Is it trying to escape this feeling of loneliness or whatever? But I want you guys to dive in, and I want us to take a hard look at ourselves and ask the question, is God at the center of what we're doing? And I want you to be really honest in this discussion. So take some time to discuss and then keep on with this video. So I hope that you had a great discussion about is God at the center of all this stuff that we're doing? Is it the center of my small group? Is He the focal point of this ministry? And if not, why not? What else are you pursuing? What else is at the center? What else are you holding higher than God? So, I need you to really track with me on this next part. So if you're drinking coffee this evening or you're Bang energy drink, take a big gulp, because I want you to track down at this line of argument that I'm about to present, because hopefully it illuminates some things, and I just think it's awesome. So I'm going to reflect back on a lot of things that we've already covered, and so just track with me. I'm going to go in fast, but it's worth it. So I'm going to start we are studying the book of Numbers today, but I'm going to start in Genesis chapter 12, the call of Abraham, and work through some different texts. So just hang with me, it'll all make sense. So in Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 3, it says this. The Lord said to Abraham, "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So you have this concept that God says, Abraham, through your family, I'm going to build a nation, and that nation is going to bless all nations. So we have that concept. Let's flip over to the New Testament. This is the Apostle Paul. This is after Jesus has already died and been resurrected. Here's what the Apostle Paul says in Galatians chapter 3, verses 6 and 7. Consider Abraham. He believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness. Understand then that those who believe are children of Abraham. So why did I read that? So great question. So what those verses are talking about is, how do we come into this family of Abraham that's going to do all this? And Paul simply says, it's faith in Jesus. How do you get into Abraham's family that's going to be built into a nation, and then that nation bless all nations? Faith in Jesus. That's what brings you into this family. So the final piece of the puzzle that I want to talk about here in this line of argument is in Exodus chapter 19. So in Exodus, I'm going to read chapter 19, verses 5 and 6. And here's what it says. Now if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you are to speak to the Israelites. So that was God speaking to Moses. And I don't know if you caught this, but we've talked about it before. He says, you will be a nation of priests. So I hope that you're tracking with my line of argument. So what I'm saying here is, you have Abraham. God says, through your family, Abraham, I'm going to build a nation. All nations will be blessed through them. How do you come into this family? Paul says it's through faith in Jesus. So if you have faith in Jesus, you are a part of Abraham's family, spiritual family. And you're being built into a nation. And God says, what is this nation supposed to look like? What is it supposed to be about? He says, you are going to be a nation of priests. So if you have faith in Jesus, you're a part of Abraham's family, but you are a priest. And so this book of Numbers that we're studying today, I want you to flip over to chapter 6, because this idea of being a priest, and a priest, what is he supposed to do? It's really closely tied into this idea of blessing. That priests are there to mediate between God and man and God, but also these priests have this occupation, this calling, this charge to bless. And so we read here specifically in Numbers chapter 6, when God is speaking through Moses, he's talking to Aaron, who was a literal priest. Him and his family were priests. And he says, I'm going to teach you how to bless. And here's what it says in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. The Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron and his sons, this is how you are to bless the Israelites. Say to them, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. So they will put my name on the Israelites, and I will bless them. So through this blessing, this prayer that God says, this is how you are to bless the Israelites, Aaron. I hope that you're making the connection that this is part of our occupation. Our role as Christian is to be a priest and to help bless people. And in this, if that's confusing, like it sounds really beautiful, there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of different concepts coming out about God turning his face towards us and really this blessing, but also this idea of peace, and really this prayer, this blessing. It carries with it this really beautiful concept of human beings, the Israelites, coming into the right relationship with God. So I hope that is kind of stirring up thoughts in you from stuff we've talked about all year long, that it's like this reflection back to things as they should be. Things as they were in the Garden of Eden, that man is in right relationship with God, the land, and other human beings. This blessing carries with it this concept of things as they should be, and that is what we can call the kingdom of God. And so you have all of this blessing wrapped up with this idea that God's kingdom is being built, and that things are as they should be, and that we as priests should be doing this for people, helping people with this, talking about this, praying for people about this. And so I hope you see my line of argument here and it's exciting you. This may sound weird, but you are a priest. And if you are a believer in Jesus, you are a priest. If you have faith in Jesus, you are a priest. And so I want you, before anything else in your life, before you see your job as your identity and what you're doing with your life, I'm praying, I'm begging you to look at this text to see that this is how we should identify ourselves. This is the most important thing to us. It should be our top priority, is to consider ourselves priests and to help bless those and play a part in God's blessing of those around us. And so I really want to get down to the nitty-gritty here. And it's the way that we see ourselves, the way that we see the trajectory of our lives and what we're doing with our lives that I'm talking about. This is like my favorite part of Bible study, is when we have to ask these hard questions, me of myself, and you have to ask this to yourself. What is the top priority in your life? And this is the nitty-gritty. Do you see the biggest calling, the most important calling on your life is not how much money you're going to make, is not where you're going to live, how close you're going to be to your parents, or whatever it is. Do you see yourself as a priest, and that is your highest responsibility, is to help bless all nations because you have faith in Jesus, which qualifies you to be a priest? And I understand priest may be a strange language for you, maybe thinking of a guy in a white collar, but I'm talking about participating in God's mission and helping be a part of the building of God's kingdom in this world. So as we think about all this, we want you to see your role in this life and in this world as a priest. That you are a representative of God and that you participate in His mission to help bless all of the earth, all other nations. And so rather than just seeing yourself as just someone who's going to get a job and work just to make a little bit of money and call it a good life, we want you to have a higher calling and purpose than that. So our greatest dream in this ministry is not just to have a small, pretty decent ministry at UAFS, but we want to send out teams all over this nation and all over this world so that others can come into this blessing, this right relationship with God. And we hope and pray that lights a fire in you, that ignites in you this burning passion for others to have what you have, this relationship with God. And so I'm asking you point blank, is God asking you to do that? Is God speaking to you right now and asking, will you go help start another campus ministry somewhere else? There are nations that don't know of God. There are, very specifically, there are campuses in the United States without a single campus ministry on them. And so is God asking you to be His priest, His representative? And maybe that means full-time ministry, but maybe that means just being a part of a team and going and working your job and helping support that campus ministry and discipling students on the side. But is God asking you to do that? Is God asking you to be His priest? And I don't mean that in the official position, but just His representative, that you feel called to help bless the people of a different city, of a different school, maybe even a different nation. And that's our greatest dream in this campus ministry. And so I want us to kind of reorient ourselves around what we hold dear and what is the highest priority in our lives. And so as we get ready to pause this video again, I want you guys to spend time in prayer, blessing one another. And that may be strange for you if you've never prayed for someone else. But I want you guys to talk about it, how you want to break down in your small groups. But I want you to use this prayer as a guide. And I want you to pray for someone. Maybe you guys can pray back and forth. But I want you to pray for someone else. And I want you to bless them. And this is not just specifically to bless them so that things will go well in their lives, make more money, make a good grade on their tests. But this blessing is so that God's kingdom will be built. And so what I'm saying is that if I was praying for my wife, Rachel, she's a graphic designer. I would not pray like, God, I just pray that Rachel makes $1,000 more than she did last year, or $5,000 more, or whatever it is, or you just make it a stress-free day for her tomorrow. I want you to pray and bless that person in a way that honors God and builds His kingdom. So I would pray for Rachel, like, God, I ask that you bring people into Rachel's life through her business that she can disciple, that she can minister to. Father, I pray that through interactions that she has with her clients, that she can get into conversations about the peace and the fullness that she has by basing her identity on Christ, and that her work reflects your beauty and her calling to show your beauty in this world, and that all of it points back to God and Him building His kingdom. So I want you guys to pause the video now and just pray for that and practice really blessing one another in this context of a higher calling, a higher purpose than just our own little lives. So I want you guys to practice doing this now, praying with one another, but also I want you to think about the future of maybe doing this with your suite mates, with your roommates, and think about this as practice in your role as a priest on campus at UAFS. That is your primary goal and mission during college, is to be God's representative, to be God's priest on campus. All right, so I hope that you had an awesome time of prayer, just blessing one another and thinking about how you can do that for other people on campus, praying for them, praying with them. And I hope that this was just good practice and seeing our role as more than just our own little individual lives, but that we are wrapped up in this greater story, God's story, and we're just supporting characters. And I hope that idea of priest wasn't too strange for you, that God has commissioned us through faith in Jesus. We get to be His representatives, priests on campus, as strange as that sounds. So here's the big finale for today. I want you to flip over to Numbers chapter 9, verses 15, and I'll read 15 through 23, and there is some solid stuff here. So here we go. On the day the tabernacle, the tent of the testimony, was set up, the cloud covered it. From evening till morning, the cloud above the tabernacle looked like fire. That is how it continued to be. The cloud covered it, and at night it looked like fire. Whenever the cloud lifted above the tent, the Israelites set out. Whenever the cloud settled, the Israelites encamped. At the Lord's command, the Israelites set out, and at His command they encamped. As long as the cloud stayed over the tabernacle, they remained in camp. When the cloud remained over the tabernacle a long time, the Israelites obeyed the Lord's order and did not set out. Sometimes the cloud was over the tabernacle only a few days. At the Lord's command, they would encamp, and then at His command they would set out. Sometimes the cloud stayed only from evening till morning, and when it lifted in the morning, they set out. Whether by day or by night, whenever the cloud lifted, they set out. Whether the cloud stayed over the tabernacle for 2 days or a month or a year, the Israelites would remain in camp and not set out. But when it lifted, they would set out. At the Lord's command, they encamped, and at the Lord's command, they set out. They obeyed the Lord's order in accordance with His command through Moses. So I hope that made sense to you. If not, reread it. But man, there is an amazing point that is being made here. So in this text, what it's saying is very plainly, when God moved, the people of God moved. When God stayed, the people of God stayed. So it's this amazing point that the people of God, the Israelites in this story, that they were all encamped around this tabernacle. When God got up and moved, that's when they got up and moved, because they were chasing after God. They were following God. So my question for us today is, who is doing the leading? For us, who is leading our lives? Who are we following? Because these people were chasing after God. They were following God. And I hope you see the significance in that. Let's talk about it. So for you, this is said a lot in sermons, but I want you to do this right now. I don't want you to think about anyone else, but when you think about these questions, I want you to ask them to you. Not like, I want you to hear these questions and be like, well, I know someone who needs to ask himself that. I want you to ask yourself these questions. Are you totally dependent on God for when and where you move and what you do? Man, do you have your whole life already planned out and already laid out? I want you to ask yourself that question. Do you have these plans and then maybe you can squeeze God into them? Or is God doing the leading in your life? Ask yourself that. And so here we go. Like it really boils down to, does God have access or does God have a say in our plans? Man, can God change your plans? Can God change my plans? There is so much and so many of us that we have it all laid out. So I'll ask you specifically, we've talked about this a bit already. What is the biggest reason that you chose your major or whatever career you're going to go into? Man, did you choose that career because you're going to make a lot of money? Did you choose that career because your parents wanted you to choose that career? And did you choose your major? Did you choose what you're going to do quite literally as a job for the rest of your life? Did you choose that because it was comfortable? Man, who is doing the leading there? Is it you or is it God? So I want to ask another question, and these are all these questions you guys have to reflect on. This is the nitty-gritty. This is the hard stuff of following God, of chasing after Jesus. But here we go again. I'm going to ask a few more questions. So does your faith impact more than just where you're going to be on Sunday mornings? And that could mean right now, or that could mean like you, as you're thinking about your life 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, you're like, yeah, I'll probably move to Dallas because they got a lot of jobs there. And then I guess I'll have to find a church down there, to really keep up with my faith. Man, I think that if you look at this story, if you look at numbers, these people are saying quite literally, where you go, I'm going to go, God. Where you move, I'm going to move. I'm not letting you out of my sight. What you do, I'm going to do. And so, to bring it home, man, like, some of you may have thought I was talking crazy talk already when I mentioned the campus ministry planting teams, on whether you should potentially think about that post-graduation, moving to a new city to help start a new campus ministry. I'm sure some of you dismissed that out of hand. And I just have to re-ask, like, does God have the ability to change your mind? Does God factor into your plans, or are they already set out and maybe you'll sprinkle some God on top of this life that you've already decided to live? Because these people were totally dependent upon God. When He moved, when He went, that's where they followed. And so I'm thinking about a team from Jonesboro, Arkansas, at a campus ministry a lot like this. Just some normal people that saw themselves as representatives of God's, that caught a fire for the love that Jesus has for them and the love that God has for them. And they wanted other people to experience that blessing, that relationship. And so they moved to Seattle. And they're starting a campus ministry right now, just a team of ordinary people that wanted other college students in Seattle to know the God that they knew. And God changed their plans. I'm sure that they didn't go to college thinking like, yep, I'm going to go start a campus ministry. This was at a state school, Arkansas State, Jonesboro, Arkansas. I'm thinking about Dylan, Sarah's husband that taught last week. I'm thinking about my wife, Rachel. They work full-time jobs. But man, they see their role as priests. They see their role as God's representatives. That primarily, that they are to be God's representative and God's priest in their places of work. And they help in every way that they can to disciple some of you students that are watching right now. And to teach and instruct, because they want you to have a relationship and they want you to have a dependence upon God, even though they work full-time jobs doing other things. Man, like they go where God goes. I'm thinking about simpler stuff. Spike ball. There's so many people that play spike ball in this ministry. Man, spike ball is amazing, but why do we play spike ball? Like, is it to get really good? Is it to be the best player at a small school in Fort Smith, Arkansas? Or is it to connect with people? Is it to start relationships with people so that you can talk about deeper things? You can invite them to your small group. Man, what about other hobbies? Like, do you work out alone? Or do you work out and invite people to work out with you? Do you go play soccer? Do you hunt? Whatever. Do you paint pumpkins alone? Like, whatever it is. Do you see what I'm asking? I hope this is connecting for you. Like, what is the driving force behind all that you do? What is the motivation behind all that you do? That's what I'm asking. What is the highest importance for you? Is it to be the best at spike ball? Is it to have a comfortable workout by yourself so you just get it in? Or is it to see yourself as a priest, as a representative of God that is chasing after God? God, where you go, I'm going to go. So this is a side note, but I'm going to just throw this in here. Man, are we chasing after comfortability? Are we worshiping at the feet of this God called comfortability? I want you guys to just totally blow that out of your worldview. I want you to practice stretching and growing. And I don't know if you guys caught this last week whenever Dylan taught, but Dylan said pretty quickly and he just kind of made a quick point and kept on going. He said he said something like, I'm an engineer, but I also have a speech impediment, and this is not in my wheelhouse, or this is not super comfortable. He said something like that, but I'm here because I feel like this is what God has asked me to do to help teach you and instruct you. Man, do you think that Dylan was comfortable doing this? And I'm not saying that to call him out, but what I am saying is what a demonstration of following God, of stretching yourself and not bowing to this God of comfortability. God and you knowing God and understanding God's love for you is stronger than Dylan's fear of public speaking. So I want to challenge you guys to put yourselves intentionally in situations where you have to depend on God. I want you to practice some public speaking. Maybe play a sport that you're not good at. Maybe go work out and do a super hard workout, or a 6-week program where you're going to just murder yourself and be really uncomfortable. Maybe get up and study your Bible at 5 a.m. Oh, okay, that's crazy. Yeah, you're going to have to depend on God. You're going to have to desire God and what He thinks about you more than what your body's telling you, what everyone else is telling you. You need to put yourself in uncomfortable situations to depend on God. And so I don't want us to be a ministry that takes the easy way out, but we place God higher than our own comfort, and we place people knowing God higher than our own comfort. And so that when we come into these conversations, we don't need people to tell us who we are. We don't need people to affirm us, that we know that God affirms us, that Jesus affirms us. And we can get through uncomfortable situations because we have the peace of Christ. We have the blessings from God. So that was a side note, but landing the plane here about the Israelites, when God moves, they move. This is going to take some discernment. That's probably the biggest question on your mind. And I am not saying that the hardest choice is necessarily the best choice, but here's what I want you to do. And I don't want you to leave whatever room, small group you're in, without setting a time to do this before next week. So I want you to listen for the voice of God, and I want you to do this in a specific way. I want you to find a quiet place, and I want you to sit in a quiet room or wherever you're at, and I want you to pray. And I want you to say, God, I am a blank slate. God, my life is a blank check to you. What would you have me do? And I want you to, if you have to go hypothetical, like in a world with no fear or anything like that, what would you have me do? God, what do you want from my life? Not what do my parents want, what makes the most money, but what do you want from me? How can I help bless all nations? How can I participate with Jesus in this mission of redeeming and restoring all the world? I want you to say, my life's a blank check, and just see what you hear from God back. I want you to say, God, you are my top priority. What do you want me to do? And just listen. And so I want you guys to set at least 30 minutes or an hour to do this, to just listen for the voice of God and say, God, my life's a blank check. What do you want? I'll write anything. You just tell me. Please do that. And I hope that you're getting this. All of this is about desiring God. This is not going to make any sense at all if you don't desire God. If you're not hungry for God, want this relationship with God, that this is all just, like, oh man, these people are crazy or Jesus freaks. It doesn't make sense unless you desire God above everything else. And I'm going to make this kind of strange point here at the end, but what I'm getting at is it connects to our view of the afterlife even. If we don't like God, then guess what? You're probably not going to like heaven, because that is the best part about heaven is God. Like, it's not just like chocolate fountains and spike ball. Like, the best part about heaven is God, that God is there. So one of my favorite authors, C.S. Lewis, who wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, he also wrote this really interesting book about heaven and hell, and he uses these analogies and different things, and it's really cool storytelling to describe in ways what heaven is going to be like. And one of the things that he talks about is there's people who kind of live their own lives in their own selfish way, and it's like they're on this bus to heaven, but they end up just passing by heaven because it's not appealing to them. And I'm not saying this to scare you, but that's the reality. Like, if we get into our own selfishness, our own lives, like, why would we want to go to heaven? Because, like, it's not appealing. The most appealing thing about heaven is God, that God is going to dwell there. And so I hope that above everything else that you've heard me say today, that you come away with like, man, I am hungry for God. I want more of God. I want to center my life around God. And so that's a great book. You should read it. But the best part about heaven is that God is going to be there. And Dylan said it amazing. He put this really beautifully last week. He said that the Israelites, whenever they were offered to go up to the promised land in Exodus, and God says, I'm not going to go with you, they say, no, man, like, I would rather be in the worst situation with you, God, than in the best situation without you. And so, man, I hope that you see the power in those words. I hope that you see the responsibility and the seriousness in those words. Is, man, we have to desire God. That all of this is about desiring God. And so the last thing I want to say is that early on I talked about the configuration of the camps. All of this 600,000 Israelites are centered around this tabernacle. They're centered around God's presence. Well, in that same chapter, whenever they says that they left, whenever they would leave camp and the pillar of cloud would move and they would follow God, it was Judah, the tribe of Judah, who would lead. And so I hope that you remember this, but several lessons back I mentioned how Jesus is from the tribe of Judah. And so in essence, you have Jesus, who is described later on as the Lion of Judah. He is leading the charge. It's like Judah is leading the way, and it's this kind of cool biblical wink to say that Jesus is leading the way in following God. And so if you are unsure how to do this, look to the person of Jesus and be like Jesus. Copy what Jesus does and read about his life and model your life after him, because Jesus is showing us what it means to move when God moves, to go where God goes. And I hope that you see in the life of Jesus that if we follow Jesus, that's going to lead us straight into the presence of God. And ultimately, this sounds so simplistic, but Jesus is going to lead us straight into heaven, which is straight into the presence of God. But if you look at his life here on earth, it was uncomfortable. Man, Jesus led a hard life. It was adventurous. It was full of story, but it was hard. But his life meant something. So as we close out today, I want you guys to spend some time talking about these difficult questions, talking about the biggest reason you're choosing your career, and really the biggest reason, the simplest question of, does God have access to your plans, or is your life completely laid out and he doesn't have the ability to change your plans? You guys spend some time talking about that and reflecting tonight.